AP Verducci, I'm sending him a bill. Don Howard is here. Steve Nestrat.
Here. And I got Joe Haley from Turner Thompson.
And Haley Kuzino? Here. Great. Superintendent Coward, could you provide the emergency evacuation procedures for the?
Okay, in case of emergency, we need to vacate this room or building. You're gonna go out that door, you can turn left or right, and both ways will take you back outside.
Thank you. Next item is review of minutes. We have the March 4th, 2026 minutes for discussion and vote. Any comments, questions on the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the March 4th minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Vice Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. I'll let a unanimous vote because there's no dissents. Next item on the agenda is OPM update or discussion.
You're up.
Pass that. Single sided, thick paper, colored copy. Report.
It's nice to be an OPM.
Yeah, we got color.
Go.
Oh, this is.
Go. So, the work is progressing well. We've actually included some pictures, up in the third page. Of where the sprinkler has been replaced, where some of the piping has been run. I don't have the exact percentage and room count, but we have a meeting tomorrow and I can forward that out to the committee separately. And there's one picture that's a little bit odd where there's just a hole in a canopy and there was some destructive testing and camera work done to see if there was any wood or combustible materials up in there. And so we're expecting that the contractor is going to submit an RFI for that for Phil to and the Jensen Hughes team to comment on. So there might be a slight design change to what was in the original plans. So that's something we'll report out at the next meeting. But other than that, the progress is good. Gary, Russ, I don't know if you have any comments in terms of how the contractor is performing on site.
Well, it's a good thing we had no complaints. Everything has been a go and nobody's complaining about any messes. None of the teachers said anything and like they're not even there. They clean up after themselves. The next day, everybody goes to work. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Times no news is good news. And then on this, I just on the second page, we did put together what we'd call a job cost summary or project cost summary. And so it kind of gives you a snapshot of the total construction cost. You'll see we have, the change order for 2,500, which was the builder's risk, that's reflected as an increase. I'm holding 10,000 as a credit that I'll come back for the waiving of the town permits. And then you have the soft cost, which is basically Phil and our fees, and then the other is just a small fee that Russ had with the testing lab that you all voted to have done. So that gives you kind of the total against the RIDE budget. And then basically a forecast, and this is probably helpful to maybe the finance people or the bill payers, kind of a forecast of how the money will be drawn down. So we've received one pay app. It was approved by the committee and the town council. And Bill and I have pay app 2, which we'll review tomorrow with the group in our call and then submit that for you all to council pay. So again, that's a typical snapshot. You'd have probably for a larger project, but just to kind of discipline our side and all the processes showed in the standard format. So I don't have anything else, Bill, unless you have.
I was just gonna ask, when is the last day of school?
12th.
we may want to just let Fred know that so he can staff accordingly and.
Yeah, I think we have that in our weekly, catch-up calls that we do. But we'll make sure that we highlight that tomorrow. And I've heard, nothing more from the principal, work on the schedule changes, so. But yeah, any other questions with comments?
Any results back on the air quality baseline testing?
Yeah, Russ, you.
Yes, that was everything was fine on it, everything was 0.
Good to know. And in regards to page 3, photo 3, with the hole that you reflected, what is potential cost that we're looking at? Like, do we know what? We have a rough idea of what's on the other side there. Like, if you find the combustible materials, what's the plan
There
there?
is some wood materials in that.
Okay,
So we don't know yet until we get the RFI, whether that will have a cost impact or just a change in.
and this wasn't discovered before.
Well, there was no destructive testing for the as-built, I think, and I should probably turn
Yeah,
this over to Phil, he's
yeah.
closer to it than I am.
Yeah, we did not anticipate there to be any wood in this canopy structure. And then as they were doing their measuring, they did some destructive testing and saw that there's wood up there. So we're going to be reviewing it with Jensen Hughes to see to what extent we're comfortable or understand how much wood is up there. Either we'll tell them no change, or we'll tell them that we want to run a head out into this canopy and sprinkle it this way. So,
And what do those options look like? I'm just trying to figure out what this costs, from the town council's perspective, we chose to leave here and make a motion to waive the fees. I knew it was only a minimum of $10,000, whatever it was, but I'm seeing this be eaten up really quick. And I just am concerned that what else are we not finding? Like, are we waiting
I
until?
don't think
Like
they
some of this
found
stuff
any
here,
other,
like, okay, should have been
no.
inspected, tiles should have been moved, we should have known what was above it.
They did all that.
Okay.
yeah, this
Yeah.
was concealed, meaning it was
Understood.
all enclosed. And I do not think, we can confirm this tomorrow, that they found any other wood
Okay,
throughout
so
the
this is
building.
the
So
problem. that
this
we're
is
dealing
really
with
the
now.
only
Okay.
issue.
Yeah, and we have, the contractor has pictures, unfortunately, the person, the engineer with the contractor who took those pictures. Was on vacation, whatever, so we didn't get his photos, and obviously we don't have the camera shots that are in that hole. But
So run a sprinkler in there, what's?
trust me, there was some wood in there, that's the issue that Phil and Justin has to evaluate.
So without ever compromising the life safety of the occupants, and this is an outside canopy, by the way.
Okay.
My goal is to make this a non-issue. But
Good to know,
I need to have
No
my,
cost change issue.
I need to have my consultant who is,
verify that,
yes.
understood, thank you,
Well,
I understand what you're putting there,
gotcha.
thank you.
I have a follow-up question to Mr. Pool's line of questioning, it's a good catch. So this is the canopy outside the front entrance of the high school?
Yes,
In the bond, we were planning to have money put aside to actually redo the entrance. Is that playing into your equation or your planning that if potential we could rebuild or demolish that canopy and replace it with something else, before a decision is made running a sprinkler in it?
correct, because if we enclose the vestibule, which is part of this plan, with the canopy, then it is within conditioned space. It means it is really not a big deal to just put it in. Right now, the challenge is that the head is outside in
Whatever.
unconditioned space, which makes it a little bit more complicated.
So it'd be better off
So-
to just close it.
My approach to Jensen Hughes is going to advocate, say, listen. There's another phase to this project where we're going to be enclosing this, and at that point, we can drop a head in there.
Once it's enclosed,
Yes.
as opposed to running outside, so we're having heated or.
Or having to change it after this.
And change-
Well, yeah, we wouldn't change it afterwards, it would just be unnecessarily complicated for what it could be in the future. So the process is for Delta to issue an RFI, which they're doing, which I can talk to my consultant about to make sure we're in agreement and then respond. And my goal was to make this a no-cost change. What we want to do, present it to you, so you have situational awareness.
Thank you.
In the order of things, you know, the fire marshal's requirements are probably paramount above everything else. So if we plan that course of action and delaying putting a head out there because we're in closing or whatever the course is that still in a timely manner keep Don and Dan out of jail?
Yeah,
And that depends. Oh.
So
That's
there's
a
a
yes.
come.
Yes, the short, yes, the answer is yes, they are not going to jail.
Okay,
That's sad.
okay. Any other questions? I see none. Any other OPM updates?
No, there might be further comments when Bill does his presentation on the roof, but that's really all we have on the fire suppression.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, which is project updates. Item A, bond project schedule communication update for discussion. Section I, CHS auditorium.
So I'll start and then hopefully Phil will also jump in. So with the equity initiative grant that we got. When Phil and I originally wrote that grant proposal, one of the components was to update the lighting and then the sound system within the auditorium. We had already done the chairs and the carpeting and refinished the stage, but we knew lighting was an issue and sound was an issue. We have about $1.3 million left in that grant, and that's the grant, by the way, that is connected to our bond in the sense of the bond pays our share of the grant, but then RIDE pays the other part of the grant because of this equity initiative grant. The thing that also is playing in the background is there's a if you have 15% of your project as either a WBE or an MBE, you get an increase in your reimbursement from RIDE. And we have about $477,000 of WBE from the gym project, because the company that did demo was about 477, so we have that. For us to hit the 15% threshold, we're about another 325 short. So what I said to Phil is I'd really like to make up that difference in the auditorium project, because that's where that's our last chance really to make that up. So Phil and I met, we talked, and we also met with the theater teachers that are at the high school in terms of what their wants and needs are. And Phil was able to kind of reacclimate himself to the space because he had been there a few times. Russ was there, I was there, and we're kind of coming up with a plan to try to address all the things that we need to address. Lighting, specifically performance lighting, seems to be the priority. House lights are not great. There are fixtures, it's just the bulbs burn out quickly. We might be able to address those some at a time because it's a big space, but performance lighting seems to be sort of like the priority. I guess when they do a performance, there's really just not a lot of options in terms of dimming or controlling the light bars or almost anything. They've kind of piecemeal together some sound upgrades. So I think they're not looking at that as being their neediest thing, but they'd also like to see that improve as well. Phil and I were there, and one of the things Phil and I discussed is this grant was extended till January of June of 26. It's the last part of the grant. We've done the other part was spent already on the gym and the science labs. So in anticipation of maybe needing an extension, I reached out to Mario and I said to Mario, here's where we are. We've spent about $3.5 million. We have another about 1.3 available. We're working on a project. Bottom line, can we get an extension on that portion? He said yes. So I'm going to write him a letter saying, here's what we were originally awarded. Here's what we spent in terms of timeline. Here's what we have left. If Phil can give me enough information to fill in some gaps, I'll send it to them. They'll approve it, send us back an MOU, which we've done before, that goes to the school committee, and the school committee just signs off that they agree. And it's usually a 1-year extension at a time. And then we can kind of then not feel like we're up against a deadline of the end of June to get this thing done. Did I set it up enough for you? All right, go ahead.
So at that meeting, we also talked to the instructors about when they have performances in this space. Because we have not yet initiated anything there, we really gave them a heads up that if we accelerate now, they will not have that auditorium available to them for their first production in the fall. So we sort of advised them that that's likely going to happen, and then the superintendent can sort of confirm that. So we let the end users know that there will be impact to the space. So I went back and looked at what we spent in North Providence with a lighting and sound upgrade. And in that space, it was several $100,000 worth of work. Your space probably needs even more work than that. The problem is the vendors that do that work are not minority or women-owned businesses. And they're rather specialized, and there's really only a handful. The one that did the North Providence, that gentleman unfortunately has since passed away. So that has taken one of the vendors off. In my discussions with other people, there is really one vendor that we should consider bringing in here, which is a vendor called Treehouse. However, how do we procure them and bring them on board? Because we need them to sort of back into a budget. Right? We don't have time to put a whole package together of all this sound and lighting and then go out to bid and everything else. So what my recommendation is going to be is that the school department, and I will help, we issue an RFQ, a request for qualifications, for this work, identifying a budget, identifying that they will be working in a design build capacity with Studio Jade and the school department. And we would go to the MPA. Like I said, there's probably Treehouse is probably the only likely one to even respond, given this. But then you have cleanly selected a vendor that can work with us and say we have a budget of X. Now, to get this 15% bonus, you're not going to get it in the auditorium. There is yet another project we had in the facilities equity grant, which was some improvements to the fitness room at the high school. There are plenty of MBE contractors that can do the improvements to the fitness. So we need to sort of look at the budget, identifying the number that we would get from MBE that we need. Then we would subtract that from the budget, and that's the value that we're backing into in the design build capacity. When we do this as a design build with Treehouse, you don't have to pay me. I can bury some of my money with the vendor. So when you pay them, they'll pay you. So it doesn't cost you anything up front. We will have another little project of fitness room work that will go to like a sole source or some, a strictly an MBE, WBE contractor that can do their own work, flooring, painting, and whatever we want to do there. That's the plan. So the to-do would be for me to work with the school department on relatively quickly generating an RFQ that you can advertise so that we can get a vendor to start working with us. That'll also accelerate the entire timeline. If we have a vendor in a design build capacity working towards, hey, we have $600,000 and these are the things we want, and how do we get there?
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah, and just to Phil's point, so when we wrote the grant, we had the 4 projects. And when we were doing the gym and science labs together, not knowing how that was all gonna play out budget wise, I did say to Mario, and if you don't know who Mario is, he's the operations person at RIDE who oversees all of the construction, school construction. I said to him, if it gets out of budget, you know, things come in more expensive than we're anticipating, if we drop a project, is that a big deal? He said, no, you can move money between projects without any problem. So we put the fitness center sort of like on the back burner as like, if we have the funding, that will be the last project we do. If we don't have the funding and, you know, it drops off, it drops off. So I think that's a good strategy, and to use like kind of round numbers, and I'm cautiously throwing these out. We have about 1.3 available. If it's about a 325 gap to get to the MBE requirement or WBE requirement, we're looking at about $1 million, just under $1 million budget.
For the auditorium.
For the auditorium, which might be able to get them sort of those really have to have items first. And then if we have to attack the lighting, the house lighting separately through our own sort of like, you know, capital improvements, then maybe we have to do that. But I think it's a good plan. And Mario, I told him I would keep him up to speed on all of that. Questions?
How much is the fitness room gonna be to do?
So when we originally budgeted it, it came in at like $200,000 or $150,000, but there's a lot of flexibility there. It's kind of a blank canvas. It's a room that they use for yoga. They use it for, they have exercise bikes in there. They kind of like a catch-all overflow.
Is
from
there
the fitness.
space outside of that fitness room?
I don't know. We'd have to go walk and look at it. Do you know what I'm talking about? The
Yeah.
fitness room, it's down the hallway
Yeah.
and you go in. It's not near the gym per se. It's kind of where the CTE programs are on the backside.
So I guess to your point, the work that we want to do in the fitness gym, we want it to equal our MBE number that we need to target. If it turns out that, let's say the target is 300, but if the work in the fitness room is only 200, I would start taking that extra 100 and see how far I could go leading up to that room.
Mhm.
Like maybe there is hallway work that should be done.
Yeah.
We can make a pretty broad case that it's fitness related because it's en route to the fitness. Also, another one that you could do is if there are any ADA deficiencies that you have in or around that area, we could pick that up as a requirement because it's let's say there's a bathroom that's just bad. You could make that ADA compliant because it is along the path of travel to the fitness room. So, you know what I mean? So we can get to that number. It doesn't mean we have to take this fitness room and plate it in gold. I'm saying we could just
Yeah.
move the
It's like
scope.
paint flooring, that's not $300,000.
No, but if I wanna get to 300, maybe there's a bathroom right next to it that I could make ADA accessible. Well,
Right, and if you're speaking about bathrooms, just off the top of my head, we have 2 bathrooms outside the auditorium as well that are not in great shape. So if it's the same line of thinking,
and it would I could sell that all day long. It's along the path of travel. That's actually an ADA requirement that most people
they
don't.
get way
do.
more use from the public and our student body than anything. that might fit.
So now, thinking about this. Maybe we should talk more, maybe you don't do the fitness room and you redo those 2 bathrooms to grab the 300,000.
They need it. They're awful.
Cause it's a contractor issue, not.
It's a contractor issue and I can absolutely defend the scope
Yeah.
piece, the ride. And they're typically not in the position to jam you up anyway, so.
Makes more sense for the bathroom than the fitness room.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Or
that-
do the paint flooring.
Yeah,
which
again,
is, you know,
I'd like to
25,
touch
30 grand.
Both sides.
Yeah, if you can do both.
Again.
Cause we wanna hit that number first.
Yeah,
That's
because the
goal.
bathrooms, I don't think. The fitness room will have more of a direct impact, I think, on the students. Than the bathroom will, they're gonna not, it's not gonna click with them, like, oh, I got a fancy bathroom, they're not gonna care. So I think the overlook to give the students something out of this. Revamp a little bit of the fitness room as well.
Agreed. The only thing is the ADA thing, right? So, if there's an opportunity to meet ADA requirements, and if those 2 bathrooms are not where they need to be. May not have the direct impact on students, but it would put us in a better compliance situation in terms of. Our performance space and the bathrooms.
Which is fine.
Yeah, it's a balance,
But
I
that's
think.
what I'm looking for, I'm
yeah.
looking for, I don't want everything to never go to the students, and then it's like, you know, I know that goes to the students too, they're using it, that's not what I mean by that, but. it won't cost much to paint the floor. And it will.
Yeah, no, I
It's gonna look
completely agree.
more
It's small money.
in the grand scheme.
So that's our plan. So my first thing, let's get this RFQ out on the street, then we can talk about
Okay,
what we can do for the bathroom.
I'm in the wrong one, this.
Oh, I know, I absolutely am in the wrong line.
Yeah, if we can't do, I think all of us could split 300K into two.
You don't want me doing that.
I didn't say it was gonna be nice, I just said it would be done.
Hey, Don, pay free bath.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. That's a whole other story.
Any other comments or questions on the auditorium updates? Seeing none, we'll move on to item BI. We already talked about the CH fire suppression system. Is there anything further we can discuss on
I
that?
don't think so, I think we can go right to the roof piece.
All right, go to item B two, Allison Feinstein Middle School partial roof replacement.
So we're going to submit our DD submission. We're getting another estimate back, but preliminary reports are that we are still in line with our SD estimate, which was around 4.5. Last time we talked about, this is a large roof area, and from the roofers that we've talked to already, there's a lot of work already out there. And it would be prudent. Well, we talked about a couple different approaches that really didn't seem to work well with everybody, but the best one that worked well was to break the roof out into phases, where we kept all of the large field areas one phase, then the high spaces, the gym or an auditorium or whichever ones they are, as a separate phase. In the event it goes into the school year, in terms of getting it done, they are less impactful to students teaching and learning as the classrooms are. That is the approach that we're going to go with when we go out to bid. We were hoping to go out to bid in April. I think it's more like May. And I would like to have just a quick discussion on some dates to back into when we should do this. So bids will need we'll probably want a school building committee recommendation. This committee will want to recommend. Then it will go probably to town council to make the award. When does the town council meet in May? And or June, early June? You know those dates?
Second Tuesday of the month, second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
May is the 12th and the 26th. June, I didn't go that far out, so June's the 26th, so we'll be looking at the 9th in June and the 23rd.
I wouldn't want to go past the June 9th one. So June 9th, May
May
26th.
26 might be a good.
So May 26th. When would a school building committee meeting be?
So we've been doing the first Wednesday. We couldn't do the first Wednesday in April, so that threw us to now. And now the next one is the first Wednesday of May, which you may need. So we're probably not gonna do the first Wednesday of May, so we'd have to settle on maybe the second Wednesday,
13th.
uh,
Could I
May.
suggest even farther,
Sure.
like a May 20th?
Mhm.
Now, I just want to.
I won't be here if you need a voting member, just make sure you guys have a quorum.
Which is it's gonna get harder and harder when the weather gets nice.
So let's say this, if we have a building committee meeting on May 20th. We would want. So I think with this, we're just gonna get too jammed up a little bit, just one too close. I think this goes to the June 9th one. Just because if we want bids maybe due on May 14th, which means then the pre-bid should be on April 30th. Which we're not gonna be ready for April 30th. Today is April 15th. Plus you wanna advertise for 2 weeks before then, which means we'd have to advertise like tomorrow. Which, that's not gonna happen, so. Let me do this, Steve, before our call tomorrow, let me run through a schedule that works on June 9th.
Okay.
And then we can see how that goes.
Yeah. But. I think you think we should just set the May 20th or 21st date?
Well, that one really won't matter then, because if you said you've been doing the first Wednesdays.
Right, so
We have,
So
it.
let-
we project a meeting on June third to be before the June 9th.
The
Yeah,
June
but-
third meeting would be good.
That would be good, yeah. I was gonna say, what's the latest that you still have enough time to go to June 9th? Do you need it a week in advance or just 3 days?
Friday beforehand.
The Friday beforehand, so we could do that.
So we
Friday,
definitely would
Thursday
do
or
the June-
Wednesday, whatever day.
so do you wanna skip the May meeting and just have the next meeting be May,
June.
June,
June third.
yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think the sprinkler project is sufficiently under control.
thank you, Phil.
June fourth, I think is graduation.
Is it?
Think so.
We haven't slept in a month. It's just been go, go, go. Yeah,
I don't know what calendar.
Yeah, June 4th is graduation. Third is.
I already got the third on my calendar. You said maybe I don't have it.
I already sent that
you have a
one.
calendar, Phil, so what's?
Yeah.
The ninth.
So we just won't do the May one.
May 6th?
Yeah, we'll cancel May sixth.
Okay,
I don't think it's anything.
unless something comes up.
Right.
So back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, that would be the 4th, that's graduation.
So we talked about meeting on June third. Is June third still
June 3rd.
good?
Yeah.
Third,
Big time.
Yeah. So, and for us, Steve, I would probably
Yeah.
make bids due on,
we can back into that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll back into
Yeah,
that.
We can back into that, but I think if we set those 2 meetings.
so that's our plan.
June 3rd building committee, June 9th.
They're expecting any bidders for that roof?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll have at least 3 or 4.
As opposed to one.
Well, a project of this size will,
You have a pre-bid, they all go in the parking
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
they all decide, they tell you, okay, this is the guy who's gonna bid you.
that does not happen in Rhode Island.
It's never happened.
Definitely back up.
Any other questions on the roof replacement topic? Then let's move on to item B3, which is western well replacement.
So, I think Dan and I have been the most sort of involved in this. Northeast Water's done a ton. They answered all the questions that Rido had. They've all come back as acceptable, like, they're really, really good place. Dan has done a lot of work to try to reach out to the owner of the property that kind of abuts where the easement would be for the well. She was responsive initially when she missed the call,
Yeah.
but, we've sent her certified mail. Northeast Water's called, we've tried to reach out to her, she hasn't responded back to us. So I think we could continue to try, but I also think we're gonna be able to maybe just go the route of going through the town and just get an easement. Like, I don't know what they call it legally, but like, if she's not gonna be available to us, to try to do it that way. But in his application to Rido, he is putting in sort of evidence of all the times we've reached out to try to connect with this person. And then once all of it gets approved, then I think we can start that process as well.
Have we sent Maria that?
We sent her there.
She should go on. I won this my first building school, and then we were gonna have this issue, we gotta do something with it.
So I don't think it's uncommon, but the person from Northeast Water said when somebody hasn't responded to anything, it usually means they're not going to, right? In which case, you just have to go a different route. I don't know the details legally of that.
We use you tomorrow,
Yeah. Alright,
Any other questions on the well replacement?
we're good on that.
Okay, moving on to item 4, Hopkins Hill floor
So
replacement.
this is a new one. We haven't, I'm bringing in now a new project because we're starting to click along a little bit. So Hopkins Hill is an old building and there's a section of Hopkins Hill where the tiles on the floor are the old asbestos tiles. They were tiled over many years ago and kind of sealed. But the tiles that go over them are now old as well and in kind of rough shape. And so in talking to Russ, you know, we think this is the time to get that done, like this summer. So have Vortex come in, do all the abatement work, rip everything out, have a company come in, put down the tile. So I think that's sort of like the next natural progression in terms of projects that we can do sooner than later. It's not a cheap project. It's gonna come in at like 180 when you include what it costs to pull out everything and then to reinstall tile. Definitely a summer slammer kind of project. It's safe right now because everything's still sealed in, but we know the tiles on the top are old. So instead of waiting for something to happen, let's just go ahead and take care of it. Once that section is done, it's not the whole building, so it's 2 different sections, then there's no more in that building. Actually, I don't think there's anywhere else after that, right?
That's the last of the time.
Yeah.
Is that, are those just hallways or classrooms?
I think they're all
Classrooms.
hallways. Oh, classrooms?
Just classrooms.
I thought there was hallways.
There are hallways.
Okay.
I think you'll need like storage for furniture.
We'll probably have to move everything into like the gym or just cafeteria just to get it out of the way.
That's what the plan is, to use the gymnasium and the other side of the school, there's classrooms that we store.
Yep.
Gonna be a project.
So more to come on that, Russ has the estimate. I'll bring the estimate to the next meeting and we can kind of talk about, with Phil. Inputted.
We'll talk about it when we get to item 8. There's a couple motions I'll want you to make that based on what you just said.
That's it for Hopkinton.
All right, any other questions on it? All right, so now we can move on to item 6 is the Coventry capital improvement list.
So this is just for your own sort of knowledge. This is in our budget. We update this every year. Russ and I sit down and go through this list. I give it to the town manager. He uses it for all the things that he needs it for. And the key essentially anything that's red, and this is why I printed it in color so you can see the key. We consider to be urgent, and anything in orange is necessary. We don't have anything that we think is like, unnecessary. Everything needs to be done. Some of this stuff is actively being done, and if you look to the right, there's a column that basically, it makes an attempt to identify a funding source. So some of these things are in the bond, some of these things are capital, some of these things are things that are capital that we might use impact fees for. So there's a few different ways to address the needs. Things move up and down the list every year. There are things that make their way to the top, like the tiles at Hopkins Hill is a good example. They move up when we realize something needs to be done. There are some things that are slow movers, we do a little bit at a time. There was also another facilities assessment done recently of all the school buildings, and they had sent out a document identifying some areas that are in need of improvement, and they're all captured here as well. So this is just for you to have, I don't plan on going through the whole thing. If anybody has a question, I'll answer it, but it's a resource document, so when we start talking about things after we get past this first push, if we can cherry pick some of the things off this list, you'll know where it's coming from.
Are the costs just estimated? I see.
Yes.
Okay, because you just stated that Hopkins Hill was 180, the quote, and this quote states 150.
Yep.
Okay,
So.
how often does this get updated? Just a roll?
I update it every year with Russ.
Okay.
Annually, but we know these numbers are not locked in as being hard numbers. They're soft numbers to give us a starting point.
So the last 3 years, usually in the town's budget, we put in a school project, at least one. Obviously with the school having $25 million available, we did not put any school projects in our capital budget this year. So we've got about 500,000 in capital on mostly DPW, Parks and Rec. So we did not include any school projects this year because of the availability of funds. So you're aware why we didn't do it.
I kind of figured so. And then on top of that, we've been strategically using impact fees for things that are, necessary but expensive that we don't want it. If it sits in our own capital budget, the local one, it's gonna eat up the whole thing.
Yeah.
So like when we paved the middle school, it was one of many paving projects that need to be done. We used our impact fee money to do that.
Any other comments or questions? None, move on to item 7, ride reimbursement incentive management.
So I only brought this up because I wanted to have a conversation, because Phil, we talked about this a few times, but not recently. And I kind of wanted to go through the updates in this first, because there are incentives built into the bond in terms of like kickers, right? And safety, health and safety, and I want to make sure that because we had talked about this before, strategically placing projects where they need to be, so we can get the benefit of the incentive. So I don't know if it's worth at some point, maybe not this meeting, at the next meeting, to map out some projects and align the health and safety project. Is that the only kicker available, or is there another one?
It's just health and safety. now
Yeah,
for you.
align the health and safety projects with some of these other projects that we know are coming up. So that we can make sure we maximize whatever the incentive is.
Gotcha.
And you had done that a long time ago. You mapped the whole thing out, but now everything's different.
Yeah, it's fine.
Any other questions on that? Moving on to item 8, ride portal submissions for discussion and votes.
So we talked about Hopkins Hill. That's something that needs to go into RIDE.
Yeah, I would like you to make a motion. A motion to submit Hopkins Hill floor replacement. To the school building authority for review. And a motion to submit the middle school. Roof replacement. Design, development and construction documents. The Hopkins Hill is only gonna require one submission because it's under 500,000, does not require an OPM. That one you just need to make a motion to submit. The other one, I want you to make a motion to submit that includes design, development and construction documents. That way we don't have to do this again and we go out.
So my only question is, do we have a quorum, right? You're a voter and a voter.
Yeah.
3 of you are voters.
We have. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah. 5 voters,
2 or 3 for that.
Now we have 4.
Hmm?
We have 4 votes.
You're a voter and a voter.
Yeah,
Kristen's a voter.
3,
Kristen
4,
Bagley.
Yeah.
5,
3. Mr. Rule's a voter.
6.
And you're a voter now, right?
Yeah.
Do I not?
Okay, I'm sorry, we have,
Yeah, yeah.
we have enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I missed
I
that.
was gonna say, you're a voter. That's why you're here.
We have.
One of the reasons.
Yes,
You want her vote.
He's showing off.
If you want her vote, you have to say, it's one of the reasons.
one of the many reasons, right?
That's right.